exactly.
Yes, he does.
So, like I said, he's my friend, and I'm gonna hate to see you go. I always know you as Lieutenant Steve. I know you're my friend. Everybody knows you as Lieutenant Steve. You're my friend, and you'll always be my friend. I'm gonna hate to see you go, but we're gonna have to carry on what you started, what you and Patty started. We're gonna carry it on. So we're gonna miss you, man, and I've got to say goodbye to my friend.
Good afternoon. Listen, I'm honored just standing here next to a great man like Dave Sieves. What people don't know is a long time ago, there were two boxing teams, PBA boxing team and the Fighting Finest. One day I came back from Ireland, I got with Dave and I said, I think we have to make a trip to the PBA office and we have to make one team. Never regretted that choice because Dave is a magnanimous, creative individual who has given much more to a lot of people on this job in need through his smokers. And I appreciate each and every one of you who have stepped up to support that cause. He's developed his brand, Smoke and Talk. We've done so many great things together, but I'm glad that you saved enough of you to enjoy the next chapter in your life. So good luck. I'm gonna miss you.
All right, good. Anybody else? Okay. Joe, come on up.
I know Dave since before boxing started when he was with the transit police, right?
Yeah.
And he used to box down the 110 gym with Carl Schroeder. Carl Schroeder was the guy who actually started the team, right? And I'm going back to the early 80s. And Dave was true to the cause. Every Saturday he was there in the gym. Patty Russo, right? I'm going back to the old boxing. Maybe I'm showing my age, but I'm going back to the old boxing team way back into the early 80s. When Carl retired, Dave picked up the stick. And let me tell you, he's one of the greatest guys, one of the greatest managers, too, that I can say. Talk about a guy that's got drive. If you don't want to do it, he'll drive you. If not, he'll drive you out. That's the bottom line with Dave. So, like I said, all the best. I'm going to miss him personally. I tried to talk him into staying another 2 more years, but he's had it. He said, you don't want no more? Well, good luck, and that's your choice. So, the best, Dave.
Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Joel Melamed, and I had the misfortune to be Dave's ICO in the Brooklyn North Task Force when he was a police officer. And one thing about Dave is Dave doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. Small package, deadly. I've seen him in action outside of the ring. And I got to tell you, we used to go to, when Brooklyn North was Brooklyn North back in the day, and I would turn around and I would hear that noise that boxers make, that, and we would have 3 perps and I'd have 3 8-ids. But yeah, and then I had the misfortune of when he became lieutenant representing him numerous times, and I'll see you tomorrow at the GO. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
How you doing, guys? Corrections over here, corrections boxing team, Officer Richard. What can I say about Dave? Nothing nice right now, but listen, I love this guy. 11 years ago, we started the correction boxing team, and look how big we are now, and it's all because of you. The ups, the downs, the chicken wing incidents, which I'll talk about later. Only a few will know about that. But listen, you guys are losing a big asset to this department. Like Dave, the things he does for kids, cops and kids, and also giving money back to, we had a correction officer who had cancer. Dave gave $6,000 to that correction officer. I don't know, man, please, don't leave, man. Let this be a joke. Stay an extra, 2, 3 more years. The boxing team needs you, we need you. Listen, I love you, bro. Love you as a brother. Love you, man. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, my wife is going to? Wow.
Well, he has been a great husband, great father to his children, and I don't know what he's going to do because y'all are his family, and I don't know how he's going to be able to leave you behind. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Wow. You never see.
John, you want to say something, or you just standing out? Thank you, Mrs. Siev.
I got that man married once.
Oh, John, that's why you don't want to speak. He said, anybody else? If not, I'm taking the mic. All right, good. Thank you. Again, thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you to everyone who's here for coming out to, walk out and celebrate a great man, a great police officer, a great human being, a great friend. Me and Dave came out the academy together, but I didn't know him in the academy. I met Dave in 2001. When I made lieutenant, I went to the 6-7. I see John Tancredi's here, one of our 6-7 Rangers, and Dave Siev was there. He was the condition sergeant. And let me tell you something. I tell you firsthand the destruction this man caused over in East Flatbush. I used to be on the desk with my head down. Him and his boys, John Tancredi, Tommy Cadet, DeLuca, Paul. They used to just come in. I used to be like, oh, God, oh, man. I was just sitting there shaking my boots, man. Guys would be like, and I can't even repeat the words that came out of, you had your suspects standing in front of the desk, all the dirty names they called you, all the things, all his nicknames he had in the community. He was very well known in the community, and there was a great amount of respect and a lot of fear as well, because they knew that
Policing, right?
No, that wasn't no community policing. But I must say, and I must admit, knowing the kind of, police officer and the kind of man he is, because listen, Dave's a man's man. He's a fighter, there are people who are like that in the world. Something goes bad, hey, okay, let's put our dukes up and settle it. And after we fight, it's over. We shake hands and stuff. That's how Dave is. But I can tell you, I've seen the evolution of Dave Siev, because as tough and as hard as Dave was out there, taking in bad guys, even tough on his cops, having young cops put their hands up, learning how to defend themselves. As Charlie said, you talk about the mushroom, all kinds of fights. I think I might have been in there once or twice as a lieutenant, scrapping around there in the muster room. But you know what, it's Dave, and it's, I guess it's just, maturity, maturation, because I saw as Dave became older, and he became a lieutenant, and he became a school lieutenant, how he did everything to keep children out of prison. How he did everything at the schools to say, no, they had a fight, no, that's childish behavior. We're not gonna put them in jail for that. And Dave went above and beyond to take care of children, to keep them out of jail. So I've personally seen the evolution of this man. And I tell you, just when I talk about the destruction in the 6-7, Dave told me the story there, and he reminded me. And this guy was just nuts, because one day he walks up to the corner store there. I don't think he had a gun on him, a radio. There was some kind of dispute in there. Dave was in there fighting some guy about this big by himself. He brings him in, and nobody's like, oh, we don't want another Dave Sievers mess. We don't want nobody Dave Sievers. And then one guy goes, then he comes, I'll take the collar. And next year to work, and everybody's trying to take the collar. This guy had a loaded gun on him. And Dave's just taking him out with his hands, brings him in, and he was like a real super cop. But more importantly, one of the things that, and I never told you this, but one thing that you did that touched my heart more than anything, and touched probably an entire city, was we were together in 2001 when 9/11 hit. And you talk about a torn down city, and you talk about torn down departments. And at that time, the FD and police department, like in honor of everything that was going on 9/11, they got together to do a benefit boxing match and stuff. And it was a great thing. It was something that lifted the spirits of the officers, lifted the spirit of this city. And Dave led the boxing team, and you led us to a victory there, a very decisive victory. I think we had to go to a last-minute fight where Tommy Cadet fought some guy that was like 7 feet tall, and we were like, we're losing this fight, and Tommy beat the guy. And you touched a lot of hearts, because after that happened, we talked about it, and we was like, man, Dave did a great thing, not for the police department, not for the fire department, but for this city. That's the kind of impact you've had out here, Dave, all right? Trust me. Not only did I see it and witness it firsthand, but a lot of people talked about it afterwards. That's the kind of man you are. You do things that benefits everybody. Many people just stood up here right now and talked about all the money that you donated through the smokers and stuff. And that's something I knew, because you used to tell me through the years, yeah, we have a cop here who's having this, or we have a person here who's having this. And you would, the proceeds from the smokers, you was giving that money to people to help them out. A lot of people don't know that about Dave. This guy right here is a true humanitarian who will give you the shirt off his back to help you. If you didn't know that about Dave, walk out of here knowing that today. This is the kind of man that we have here. And I'm not going to say, oh, we're going to lose you, we're going to miss you, because I know you're not going anywhere. You're just not going to be on the payroll anymore. You'll be getting a check every month. It's going to come every month like clockwork, but you're just not on the payroll officially. But I'm sure he's not leaving this department that he spent his life in and built many relationships. You just heard it from his own wife. Hey, you're his family. The smokers are going to go on. All the other little silliness is going to go on with the smoking talks and all the good stuff. Dave's not going anywhere. He's just not going to be on the books officially anymore. I won't be able to boss him around anymore. I'm still going to boss you around. I'm still going to boss you around.
He's still the boss. He's still the boss.
But I'm proud to be I was your lieutenant. I'm your final commanding officer walking out, and I'm proud to be your brother. Your little big brother.
Thank you.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Now, as my last official act as your commander, I'm really thinking, should I hand you this microphone? Because I don't know what's going to come out your mouth. Promise me you're going to be good.
Oh, I promise.
All right, I'll give him the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Siev.
Okay. All right. I don't know. Let me see. I was going for a podium. Yeah. If I could use the podium, I'd rather. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. I really like one of these mics that would just hold itself, but it's all right. All right, so hello to everybody. I brought in 1,000 White Castle burgers. Nobody light a match, okay? All right, listen, I definitely want to say a few things, and my point of making this speech is to share with you an American story, specifically an NYC story, a New York City story, and even more than that, an NYPD story, because this story could only happen in NYPD. A story about a little kid from Queens growing up to share his point of view and his lifestyle and mix them into the world's most prestigious police department to the point where the smokers have become an NYPD thing. For my retirement speech, I'm not going to give a list of names of all the people who helped me because there's just too many people that made a difference. So don't feel any sort of way if you're not specifically mentioned. I guarantee that all of you hold a special place in my heart. By the way, Charlie McAvoy and I were sergeants together in the 6-7. I'm not going to mention names, though. All right. But I do have to shout out my wife, Victoria, who's done the bulk of raising our 4 children. Thank you. And you got to thank her because if things weren't right in my house, well, then I couldn't do anything else. So thank you, Vicki. Okay. Some people who are retired say things like, I miss the clowns, but not the circus. Me, myself, I am the circus, you know? And I'm a bit of a clown. 100% I am the ringmaster. I live this stuff. And I will miss all of this. That's for sure. I got to tell a quick Jeff Madry story, though. I do have to tell this. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. He is an undefeated boxing trainer of smoker fighters. He has trained 4 different people personally, and they all won their smoker fights.
I got to train myself.
You're looking good, boss. One time we were doing a smoke at St. A's in Brooklyn South, and Jeff Madry, who was an inspector at the time, was running around doing corners. He was leading cheer sections. He was yelling and saying hello to everyone. And to the boxing people there, he was just in the way, right? So one of my refs, the police officer at the time, says to me, who is this guy? I got to tell him something. So I say to him, that's Inspector Madry, commanding officer of the 7-3 precinct. Next thing you know, here comes Jeff. He's pushing past boxing judges. He's leaning on officials. He's being loud as all heck. So I say to the ref, here's Jeff Madry now. What do you want to tell him? Madry looks at the ref, and the ref says, well, sir, I just wanted to say that you're one of the most enthusiastic coaches that I've ever seen. You're doing a great job. All right. All right, so back to my personal story. First of all, I know some of you out there thinking, what is this guy? What kind of fellow are we dealing with here? What's this guy's ethnicity? Well, Junese, that's half Japanese and half Jewish, Lithuanian background. And some of the stereotypes fit me. I'm good with math, driving, not so much. All right, and my wife Victoria, she's Cuban. That's black, Scottish, indigenous Cuban. Put us together, and we make diamonds. Our kids, they're American mixed, they're diamonds. So I said this is a New York City story, and my ethnicity is a part of this. Growing up for me, it was clear that I didn't fit into any group. Kids being kids, they show me this. Kids are mean, but they're also very truthful. I learned at quite a young age that I wasn't one of them. I wasn't white, I wasn't black, I wasn't Spanish, and I wasn't a pure Asian. I was a half-breed. The other kids let me know this. Being a hard-headed person myself, I had a strong personality that made for a lot of friction. I frankly got picked on a lot, beat up a lot. That's part of my life. And that's important because it shaped me into what I've become. Because I never accepted being a victim. Even when I lost, I needed to fight. And that's who I am. Eventually, this attitude got me into boxing. And I found out in boxing would take me in. There's no prejudice in boxing. You got in the ring, you're a body who could be punched at, you could be useful for sparring, used to work with, even as a moving target. Plenty of times I was a moving target. But later on, you keep up, you get better, and when you can fight, that's also respected. So for me, boxing was life. I needed to uplift myself, I needed to fight. I needed to be somewhere where I was accepted. And at the time, boxing was the only place that took me in. On face value, I would never be a part of any group. But boxing showed me that I could be part of the family. What I didn't understand at the time was how much discipline I learned. Eventually, I went into college, I got a degree in math. There would be no way I would be able to study math without the discipline I learned in boxing. And here in the math world, I found another place without prejudice. In the world of math and science, you can either do math or you can't. You accept it for your ability and nothing else. And in this discipline, even though I didn't end up in a math-related career, I learned a sense of logic and a way that things fit together. It's something I can't explain, but even when I run a smoker or plan a trip or look at policing, things seem to fit together naturally for me. I can clearly see this when I need to put it together, what fits, what doesn't, the mathematicalness of it all, it's very clear. It's helped me figure things out all of my life. You might say that my logic is kind of wacky, but to that I say, at least you understand there's logic to it and that there's a method behind the madness. And lastly, the final group of people that I would find to take me in was the police department, City of New York. Remarkably, I went from someone who did my own thing into someone who wore blue. The NYPD is more than a job. It's a culture full of officers who face the similar struggles, worries, hopes, and joys. We're all the same. We breathe the same air. I want to thank the NYPD for giving me a cultural and ethnic acceptance. Excuse me. I'm a person who is blue. So through you, the NYPD, I have a history. I have tradition. I have a slew of brothers and sisters. I have a bond, I have a love, and I have a purpose. Thank you again, NYPD. Thank you. So I'll always be faithful to the NYPD, but I'm not a choir boy. I'm a little different. So I show my love in a different way. It's through smokers. But before I talk about that, let me go into my career, and I'm going to share a couple of stories with you. This is especially for the younger cops. I know there's not younger cops in here, but they might hear it. Just for some of the things I've seen, some of the lessons I learned. First, a couple of tussles that I had. The biggest guy I ever tussled with, who actually Jeff Madry just pointed out, and the smallest. These were one-on-one tussles. Both of them taught me a lesson. The smallest guy I ever tussled with, that I had trouble with when I was a rookie in transit. Back then, we did ejections. Basically, we physically ejected people from the transit system for non-compliance of transit laws. And we filled out this piece of paper called an ejection. Back then, you could have a full-blown wrestling match with non-compliant individuals, and then after you're done, you just checked off the boxes on your ejection form, and you were good to go. All right? Well, this little non-compliant guy, 5 foot nothing, high on some sort of hallucinogenics. Oh, thank you. Hallucinogenics. He kicked my butt one night while I was trying to eject him. All right? He actually picked me up with one hand while I was trying to grab him. He walked up the steps with me. My legs were kicking. You know, I got all bruised up. Not a single mark on this guy. I have never been so surprised in all my life. And then the biggest guy that I ever tussled with, that was just referred to, was I got flagged down. I'm a sergeant, Ram sergeant in the 6-7. I'm going to the store. I'm getting some water. I got into court that day, so I had a nice suit on. You know, I didn't have a radio on me, but I'm just going to the store. Some lady grabs me and tells me that a big monster beat up a little boy. So I got to go over there to see what it is. Next thing I know, there's this big, huge guy. He's got a big stick. It turned out to be a table leg. I don't know what's going on. It's a big guy. He's got a stick. Maybe he beat someone half to death. I go chase him. And then I actually catch him. He's having trouble getting into the building, so I caught him. So now I look at this big man, this big stick. I'm like, I got to get that stick. So I just jump up at this guy, reach up with both of my hands, and when I pull down, I got the stick. We look at each other, and I'm like, who's got the stick now? And then I started doing some stuff, and it was real good. It was like it was genetically, you know, like it just came so natural to me, you know. Yeah, no, I didn't hit him. I just, you know, I did kata. I did a kata, you know. Anyway, so I'm marching this guy down the precinct. I'm saying march. All the kids started following us because he's over there, you know, he was beating up these kids or whatever. It's a West Indian neighborhood, so if you got slanty eyes, you're called Chin. So they all call me Chin, and they were yelling, march, big man, Chin, I say march. So we go marching into the precinct. I got this big guy, I got a bunch of little kids. I give him to a cop. Bang, he's got a loaded .25 caliber gun in his pocket. Oh my God. So what I learned from these two tussling incidents is this: never underestimate anyone, because I underestimated both for their size. The little guy was like 5 times stronger than me, and the big guy, with his size, with his stick, why would he need a gun? But there you have it. So my advice is, do not underestimate anyone and stay in shape, because every once in a while, you got to tussle. All right. Thank you. All right. Another story. I got jammed up as a cop once. Basically, I acted like a father when some thugs in my neighborhood bothered my daughter. Let's just say I got some street sparring in that day. All right? And to me, it was mathematical. It made sense. We all lived in the same neighborhood. My daughter had to go to school every day. She shouldn't be scared. So I did what I had to do. I got placed on modified duty for a few weeks. They took away my gun. They gave me a broom. They said, hey, now you're a cleaner. So I did clean the best I could do. What can I do? So I look in the mirror one day, holding my broom, and I didn't look like a cop anymore. But I did look like a father and a husband. So what did I learn from this? When you answer a job out there, sometimes you're going to deal with bona fide parents who aren't following the law, but they're being straight up mothers and fathers. My advice is know this. When kids are involved, parents are going to act like parents. Okay, now.
Dave, can I add to that story?
Yeah, go ahead.
After they locked the guys up in the station, they said, "You just warned us."
Yeah, well, technically I didn't lock them up, but, you know, technically I almost got locked up, but, you know, if you want to get down to technically, they turned out to be complainants. What are you going to do? All right? All right. On with my next. Some people look at me and they ask me why I'm always so happy, why I bounce back after seeing tragedies that occur on our job and continue with my smoker talks like everything's all right. A lot of people out there, they wonder, am I dumb? Am I always just happy and energetic? The answer to that is yes, I am. Yes, I am. Let me put it like this. Some of the things that affected my life. When I went to the 6-7 Detective Squad as a sergeant, I saw a lot of death. There are about 30 homicides a year around this time. I also had coverage on some days, so you end up helping out in a lot of cases of death. What I quickly found out as I looked at these lifeless bodies was how cheap some people valued life. The price of life was basically traded in for anger, rage, jealousy, disses, associations, all sorts of cheap things that could cost someone their lives. The only thing we really have, life, was traded in just casually. These young bodies that only a few hours ago were strong and healthy were now lifeless for God knows what, for what reason. But that's the way it is. So for me, I began to see life as a less permanent thing. We're all going to die. We don't know where or when. And there are people who have no problem with taking the life of another human being. And they live right among us in this society. So with this information, I began to take life a little more seriously because it can disappear just like that. But I don't want to sound cliche. I don't want to say that we should live life because it can easily be shortened or gone. We're all going to die, so live your life. No, it's more than this. Because when you see these deaths, these tragedies, as a cop, and you become cynical, jaded, you see neighborhoods and people, and they're less human to you, or that you end up living your life in fear, you don't trust people, you become less of a person because you've been exposed to some of the realities of life. If that happens, then you not only lost the battle, you lost the war. Yes, you will see people die. You'll see horrible things, but you'll see beautiful things as well. You'll see the courage people have when facing fear. You'll see the resilience when they're in pain. You'll see their heart when facing adversity. And if you stop laughing and stop loving, then you stop living. Over the years, I've cried, I've been sad, and I've been horrified, but I'll never stop laughing or living because when I do, that's when I'm dead. So all that cynicism and saltiness, that's all bullcrap. Live, love, laugh. All right? And, thank you. Thank you. And for those of you cops that get banged out, whatever, in the trial room, command discipline, punishment post, transferred, I would tell you this, suck it up. It's part of life. Just because you got beat up doesn't mean your life is over. It's just a bad day of sparring. Take your beating and get better. For those of you also that say the job has changed, yes, it has. So has the weather, the politicians, technology, and the price of a train ride. The job hasn't gotten worse. It just changes like everything else. We will always be on the brink of protecting the public and protecting the rights of the public. I myself am very glad that we have an experienced upper echelon that's always questioning, prodding, tweaking the status quo. What do you call a system that doesn't change? Antiquated or dead? So kudos to you and the NYPD chiefs and above that are doing this. All right, I got into a couple of shootouts when I was on patrol in the 6-7. Once when I fired my weapon and once when I couldn't. The first was a radio run of the armed robbery of a store. My driver, Joey Quigley, and I got there. The shootout had already started. There were 2 perps, 6 cops, everybody shooting. It looked like the 4th of July in front of us. We heard it in front of us, you know, in the air and also on the radio. Me and Joey looked at each other and we said, it's on. And we both jumped right in there. I found myself in a position where I ended up right behind Joey, the perps in front of him, 2 officers behind him. I just knew I couldn't fire behind Joey, and I knew I was in crossfire. So what I had to do, I had to run into the crossfire. And that shootout was nothing but crossfire. How did we make it through that night? None of us hurt. The hands of fate, the grace of God. The second shootout I had, and also in the 6-7, we're in Juve, stuck in traffic. Everyone's walking in the street, thousands of people in the street, cars can't move, Juve's going on in full swing. So with thousands of people in the streets, a guy right next to us snatches a neck chain right off a driver in a car. I'm with my guys, AJ and Ray, they see it, but me, I'm looking the other way. They call it out. I look over, I'm not sure who the guy is because there's literally thousands of people in the street. I'm trying to find out who the guy is. AJ says, it's a male in blue jeans, possibly Jamaican. All right, well, shorten that part of the story, I never saw the guy. AJ and Ray had eyes on him, and when we decided to step out, the guy takes out a gun and shoots at us. We couldn't shoot back because of all the people, and me, I still wasn't sure who it was. All right, but I narrowed it down to a small group. I got into the chase. More rounds ended up going off while we were in the chase. I was like at the end of it at first, but then I actually caught the guy. You know, there was no shooting for me. I actually caught the guy. I introduced him to the clothesline, the 5-0 clothesline. Listen, how we got through that? The hands of faith, the grace of God. What I learned from my shootouts is this. Sometimes shots are being fired. If you're really about that life, the oath you took for saving people, well, then guess what? You got to put that P on your chest, and you got to run in. You don't know what always awaits you. It's the hands of faith, the grace of God. But nowadays, especially with these active shooters, I believe you got to run in. And when do you shoot? When you're sure that you're saving human life. And that's it. When I was a lieutenant in OCCB, I got a call one night that Detectives Rafferty and Parker, two guys in the 6-7 squad that I had worked with, had been shot. These two guys, the best people you could ever know in every way. I rushed over to KCH. I heard they had died. It was certain that they were shot. A hospital nurse greeted me with a smile, and I walked into emergency. He asked me if I wanted to see the two detectives. He was so nice about it. For a second, quick second, I got happy. I actually felt they still could be alive. But instead, he took me to their lifeless bodies. His smile was genuine. He was a nurse that wanted to help. He had taken me to the two bodies I had asked to see. He was being very helpful to every policeman he could. And he had already taken a bunch of cops' bodies. I kissed both men goodbye. And I left that room. One of the things I learned from that was this. Not that I was stupid for hoping that they still had a chance. I really knew both of them were dead. But as policemen, we all have to have that hope. We have to always try to help, always. When everyone else has given up, we still have to try. We have to go after the robber that has already gotten away. We have to try to catch a burglar who's left no witnesses. We have to try and convict the killer when no one wants to testify. And when we were combing through the remains of 9/11 wreckage to find any piece of a human body that we could, even a bone, it seemed impossible. We still had to try. We have to be the police when no one else will support us. That hope is something that we have to have, and it pays off. Numerically, only a small percentage of the time, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that hope needs to be in a police officer's heart. You can't be a good cop without hope. So finally, I have to say this about police work. I keep saying finally, but I don't stop, do I? All right. All right. But anyway, I have to say this about police work in general, but for the smokers. I want to thank everyone for the support you've given me throughout the years. Believe me, when you guys show up and gals show up and have fun, that is so much appreciated by me and my staff and our team. I can't tell you how good it makes all of us feel. So please, don't ever thank me. I never need a thank you from anyone. And I'll never, ever, ever look for a thanks. I believe that's the case for smokers and all police work, right? You're doing a good job, don't ever look for a thanks. And I'll tell a quick story about that. I remember in 1997, it was my second smoker ever, a police officer, Paul Mumolo, who worked right here in this building, Brooklyn North Task Force. He had cancer. And our smoke raiser was a fundraiser for him. He looked so happy that night. I felt really good about myself. I felt like I was really doing something for this guy. It's like patting myself on the back. Yeah. So a few months later, he took his own life with the service weapon. The pain of cancer was too much to bear. He knew he wasn't going to live. That taught me a lesson, whether it's smokers or police work, whatever. If you want to help, by all means help. Don't do it for a thank you. Don't do it for anything else. Do it because it's the right thing to do. And that's what it is. In the same way, we should never look for thanks in police work. Because let's face it, when people need the police, it's because things are bad. We do our jobs because it's the right thing to do, period, end of story. But what if people in New York City would be happy to see us? Can you imagine that? Just because we were working, just because we were out there protecting them. Would that be nice? Actually, no. That would mean that the world has turned on its head. Maybe thousands of people have died. That, everyone is scared and unsure. That's why they're happy to see the police. We have experienced this. Those of us with 18 plus years on, we had people coming to us, thanking us for no reason other than we were just working. They were happy, grateful to see that we, the police, were out there for them. Because on 9/11, 2001, the world did spin on its head, and New York City was hit hard. I never want that feeling of people thanking me again. I don't need that. We do the right thing because we're cops. We don't need thanks. And now, about making my own differences. You got me, Dave Siev. I got 3 interests in my life that I'm loyal to: boxing, math, the NYPD. And this is how I express my loyalties. Smokers. First as fundraisers for MOS, and now it's something a little more structured. As far as the business of smokers go, there is a business aspect to this game. Here are the logistics, the mentality. The mentality is this: you're a cop, you give your word that you're going to fight in a smoker. We train you in our gyms, in our boxing community, including these inner city kids, community policing, 101, boxing style. We hold you to your word, because as a cop, your word is your testimony. Otherwise, we proclamate you as a coward. And when we put you in the ring, your family, your command, and thousands of happy fans come to see you do your thing. Win, lose, or draw, it's an experience of a lifetime. And the morale of the NYPD is much improved. So our business is taking on some of the rougher kids and some of the rougher cops. We humble them all. You got some badasses, don't worry. Cops and kids, we take them in. And they will be humbled. First by getting their butts kicked, and later on by being subjected to the tests of the workouts and discipline needed to become a boxer. We take all comers, and we put everybody in line, no exceptions. And the money raised, we have to be profitable, but we also cops. We ourselves can't profit from this. So that money goes back straight to the kids in the gyms. Is there anything more logical than that? No, absolutely not. About a dozen years ago, as Patty was saying, when the New York City PAL pulled out of the boxing game and left the whole boxing system for dead, along with several hundred New York City teenagers out on the street, that's when Patty Russo and myself said, we'll step in, we will try. With our gyms, we have 3 gyms. We've given hundreds of kids a place to train safely. We've sent 2 boxers to the Olympic Games. We've had our kids become officers, firemen, teachers, college students, military personnel. And we give every kid who gets a 90 average or above on their report card $50. Boxers are dumb? No way. Patty Russo is broke at the end of every marking period. We encourage these kids, and plenty of our kids respond. Our motto is the 150-50 rule. It takes $150,000 a year to house an inmate in jail, but it only takes $50,000 to run a free boxing gym for hundreds of kids. You don't got to be a math major to understand this. So by way of the success of our programs and the Bed-Stuy boxing program as well, we got people like Ron McCall, Jamal, Hector, Joel, Bobby Barnes. They all came out of these boxing programs. When they were young and training, they had to run past bullet casings and drug addicts. Now they're productive cops who pay back our community by volunteering right in our own program. We've opened up 3 gyms in New York City. They're free for both cops and kids, 2 in Staten Island, 1 in Brooklyn, and we're also affiliated with Bed-Stuy Boxing as a place where smoker fighters can train. Smoker money goes to this endeavor. Hopefully we can partner up with the other boroughs and to bring up more boxing gyms in the rest of the city. This is our dream, this is our hope. And the fact that we have very few resources and not much backing, it doesn't matter to us. Because let's face it, we had nothing when we started anyway. hopefully some people out there with resources will join us. So I'm going to say goodbye to you now, to the NYPD. I'm no longer one of your lieutenants. Smoker Talk itself will leave the police department as well. We'll go out into the rest of the world, and we'll see what happens. So basically follow us on Smoker Talk social media channels for the next chapter in our life. The boxing team and the Smokers will continue with a few changes, with other team members taking on the helm, but they will go on. Smoker Talk, like I said, will leave the NYPD. All the non-compliance by us, you know, talking in uniform and being in precincts, that's all going to stop. But George Zayas, Patty Russo, and myself, we're going to take it outside the NYPD, and maybe Citibank wants to fight Chase, or maybe Lyft wants to fight Uber. There's plenty of other city agencies that want to get involved. We'll get them in the mix. And we're going to help amateur boxing. We're going to be on the outskirts of the NYPD, of the police department, and we're never going to turn our back to the team we started. Again, hopefully you'll follow our journey on social media as it plays out. And this is what I'd like to say. And hopefully, before I say that, there's a party tonight, so make sure you come out. There will be the retirement party. It's going to be a smoker-esque party, open mic, just no fights. Maybe a few, but we'll break them up. All right. Okay. So if I'm going to be remembered, I just want to be remembered in the NYPD as this: a person who loves boxing, loves kids, and if you were to cut me after 28 years in the NYPD, you'd see I bleed out in blue, because I'm an NYPD cop through and through. Thank you.
All right, about a 3-minute reset. We'll all go outside and we'll give Dave his walk out the door. So I'll ask everybody to start making their way outside, and we'll get Dave on out. Turn that Rocky theme up. I might take Dave out before we go.